Welcome back to the channel. And Happy New Year 2022. Let's get it started. Remember, advancement comes to the one who is prepared. Say it after me. And I propose to be prepared. Advancement comes to the one who is prepared, and I propose to be prepared. That's the statement of the day. Remember that it's all about an action, being a disciple of self, discipline. That's what that means. Discipline means disciple of self. Releasing all sense of burden, struggle, and fear. Choosing to live in trust. It's all a choice. It really is. Forgiveness all the way around. And also, to be sure, that an action is being taken now, and the opportunity to win is gone. Now, and that opportunity is gone. Take the action now and implement. Remember, it's only one step at a time, this day at a time, this hour. What have I done in the last 30 minutes to make myself rich? What have I done in the last 15 minutes to make myself a better guitar player? What have I done in the last hour to make myself a better lawyer, or whatever it might be for you? All right, well, that's my statement of the day. Just wanted to say hello, and let's get this day started.
When I was 11, it was about Elvis Presley, Buddy Holly, and the same thing for them. And they had brilliant guitar players. Scotty Moore, Buddy Holly played, and the guitar, and you had Cliff Gallup playing for Gene Vincent. You had all these brilliant players, and we all idolized them. And it was a very exciting time. I think at the age of 11 or 12, we all had our acoustic instruments. And then later on, we got the electrics. Not like today, where, you know, I've spoken to people and they've said, look, I must buy my son a guitar. What do you recommend? Should I get him a Fender? And if I get him a Fender, should I get him a Marshall amp? It's like, the best of luck with that. You have someone plugging in a Fender who's never played it before and a Marshall. That's not going to be a happy household, you know. Whereas in our day, it was we'd plug into the back of the radio, of a 2-watt radio. You know. But it is strange how we all come from the similar area. And like I said, with Jimmy Page, he was in the same village. It's like a village, really, not even a town. And Clapton was a few more miles out. And of course, Beck was in another area, but of course, same age. I met Jimmy Page in '62. I was playing with a band called Screaming or Such and the Savages, and we used to dress up as cavemen. And I was thin as a rail at the time, so I was totally embarrassed to have this loincloth on, with all my bones showing. I was 17, 16. And all the rest of the guys in the band were all like Charles Atlas. And we played with a band called Neil Christian and Crusaders, who I played with later. And Jimmy Page was playing his Gretsch guitar with Neil Christian. And I knew he was going to be somebody then. Not only was he a good guitar player, he had that star quality. There was something about him. He was very poised and confident. He was confident, but not arrogant. So I thought, he's going to go somewhere, that guy. You know, he knows what he's doing. But he was way ahead of most guitar players. He was really good. He knew he was good too. He had a lot of, he was the type of guy that, he wasn't arrogant, but he was very comfortable within himself. And then 64 or 5, I kind of met up with him. Did a couple of sessions actually with him. One was with Jeff Beck. Jeff took the solo, and everybody was raving about the solo. And I thought, yeah, that was a really good solo. I noticed I was playing, and he was looking at my hands. And I'm like, why are you looking at my hands? And he's like, well, I don't know where we are. I'm just following your chords.
Training for 1 year when I was 11. And I kind of studied Bach and all that stuff. And that's still there, a little bit. I don't like to get into it too much. It's a whole different way of playing. It's finger style. And I don't play very much of that. I keep it to the plectrum style. I keep just inflections of classical music rather than really kind of hardcore classical. My fondest memories might have been in '65 when I used to play in a band called Three Musketeers in Germany. And we used to dress up as musketeers and jump on stage, sword fencing and things like this. That was a very good band, but we didn't really do much work. I think we worked once a year. In 1968, when we started playing, we were copying Vanilla Fudge. I don't know if you know the band. They were from Long Island. And that was the type of music we wanted to play. Heavy organ, Hendrix type of music. And funnily enough, they liked us. They thought that we were kind of innovators, and we were just copying them. So it's amazing what you can do and get away with and get paid for it. So that's how we started, really. I get into my own little world. People take that as, oh, he's annoyed. And I don't like funky soul music. I like blues, I like classical music, hard rock, medieval rock, but I don't like that funky blues. And that's when I said, I think you always go forward. People say, well, what direction are you going in? You always go forward. You're never really in a rut, and I practice quite a lot. So I know I'm going forward. I might not be playing scintillating solos, but I'm playing to the best of my ability. And it's pleasing to me, which is the main thing. And I hope other people catch on to that.
First of all, hi Herman, how's it going?
Good, cool. It's good to be in the sun here. I almost went out today with a snow jacket because it's been freezing in London still, so I was wearing my snow puffy jacket. And luckily I wasn't stupid enough to bring a snow jacket out on this trip.
Do you have a musical memory from when you were in Hong Kong?
Well, basically I had no musical skills whatsoever until the age of 16 when I started playing the guitar. So actually when I was in school I completely skipped the music lessons. I thought they were really boring. I thought they were really dumb because you get this little thing and you hit ding dong 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 dong. Everyone's hitting in the same room. And it's horrible, you know, just cacophony of noise. I really hated music lessons before.
Okay.
So I didn't really study music, the theory, any of that stuff until I started playing the guitar when I was 16.
And what made you then, because you don't like playing music, what made you pick up the guitar?
I don't know, I needed a new hobby, right? Yeah. I mean, I was listening to stuff like Bon Jovi, Bryan Adams, Megadeth, Metallica at that time.
Am I correct in saying that you are left-handed and learned to play right-handed?
I am probably almost correct, but not correct. So I can write with my left hand, I eat with my chopsticks on left, I play basketball on my right hand,
okay.
I play football on my right feet.
Okay, so it's
a bit of both, and I only just realized a few days ago that Gus G, the guitar player from Ozzy Osbourne, he's also left-handed writing, and then he plays right-handed style guitar. If you've never played the guitar, you pick up the guitar, you automatically pull it in the way that you would be doing it in. It's like an automatic thing. And when I first time I picked it up in the right-handed way and just played like that. So there wasn't like a thought of, oh, maybe I should play left-handed this way. It's just whatever felt right.
And that's the way you learn to play?
Yeah. I think the reason there's a distinctiveness to my playing is because I kind of like doing things wrong. And it's like, if you do everything correctly, you might sound like a guitar lesson or someone that come out of guitar school, which doesn't mean in a bad thing, but you know, a lot of the time you can sound very similar to people because if you study certain thing a certain way, everyone go through the curriculum of music, you absorb the same thing. I don't mean it that, you know, these guys that study are not good or obviously got outside inspiration that shaped them, but the way I did it with nothing, I just learned from listening to CDs, and if my ear wasn't that great, I would have picked it up wrong, and I would have played it not like the CD, but it would sound like me, some way like that. So I just learned in a different way that people did. So a lot of my favorite guitar players, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, do weird noises on the guitar, and I always found that really cool. That whammy bar making screams and wow, wow, wow. And when I did it, it didn't come out that way. It came out like a video game sound. You know what I mean? Because I listened to those old video games, that retro games, that sound. So yeah, it's more important to get the feeling right than copycat. So you can learn every single thing note by note, but for me it's always came out really. If I did that, it's really kind of not fluid. But if I change one or two notes there and rearrange a little bit, I put my personality, everything came out much fluidly because it was more my self-expression than just studying and copying something. So that's how it happened, and that's how we gain our sound, I guess, in the band, the way we work together, all the way to the new album Maximum Overload, which is we're continuously evolving. That kind of process of not doing what the other bands are doing and not playing exactly the same style of music we listen to. And so the lyrics were the only thing that was kind of pre-planned in the way of how we're going to approach it. Music, you just kind of write it and see how it goes, and it just takes you somewhere.
Hi guys, Nick Jennison for Guitar Interactive, and we are in the Hendrix and Handel Museum, and it's my pleasure to be sat with Ingwie Malmsteen. Ingwie, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Man, I got to tell you before we go, 14-year-old me is internally screaming with excitement to be sat here with you right now, man. And I can't think of a more appropriate guitar player to be sat in the Hendrix and Handel Museum, man.
Thank you.
How'd you like it?
It's superb. It's very cool, man. Vibe Central.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So listen, we've had a sneak preview of the new album, Blue Lightning.
Right.
Sounds killer. I think a lot of people are going to be very surprised. Is that right? So it's a blues album, yeah?
Sort of, yeah. It's a bluesy thing, you know. What happened was I grew up in a family of classically trained people, opera singers, violinists, so on. And on my 5th birthday, I got a guitar. I was the youngest kid. And I didn't really start playing until I saw Hendrix smashing up a guitar on TV. I saw it on TV, I was 7. 7 years old, not 17, 7. And I started playing that same day, basically. And I was really getting to playing, I guess bluesy stuff, because I heard blues, what's it called, Blues Breakers. I heard them.
Yeah.
That was the record I heard. And then I would Deep Purple Fireball when I was 8 years old. So I learned all that stuff. Just a little kid. I'm literally a little, like baby, this. And I got very sort of like almost frustrated with the pentatonic scales, I didn't know why. I just thought, well, this got to be something else. And so I heard Genesis selling in about £1, and that sort of opened the doors for me to go to my mother's record collection with all the Bach records and all the Vivaldi and Tchaikovsky and Beethoven. And I listened to all that, and I became I kept the Marshall stacks and the smoke machines, but the melodic content came from the Baroque classical music. Then I heard Nicola Paganini.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So my influences are classical violin, mainly Paganini and Vivaldi and Tchaikovsky work, very strong violin work.
What is it that made you decide to start singing your own material rather than bringing singers in?
Well, yes, it's I'm trying to come up with smart ways of saying this, because people tend to always misunderstand what I'm trying to say with this. But I was in a band, I was in Sweden first when I was a kid, I did all this normal stuff. I was a singer then.
Yeah.
Then I came to America in 1982, and I recorded an album with Steeler. Then I formed the band with Graham Bonnet and did Alcatraz thing. Then I got a solo deal. In 1984, I started my own solo career, and I like to point out solo career. And what I do with that is that I write the music, I write the parts, I write the vocals, melodies, and I write the lyrics, and I write everything. All the parts, the drum parts, keyboard parts. And I say, you can do this, I want you to do this, I want you to do this and do this, and here's your paycheck.
Yeah, so it's like being a composer in that sense.
Exactly the same, and I would hire them as musicians and singers, not to come in as co-write with me or be a co-anything. Because they're just not the way I work. I work like a painter or an author, whatever, or a classical composer, if you will.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it seems that the keyboard player and the bass player and the drummer seems to be okay with it, but the singer's not.
Okay.
So it always seems to me like the singer seems to have a little bit of a, well, why shouldn't I write the lyrics and why shouldn't I be the star? Well, I said, listen, you can be writing the lyrics and you could be the star, of course, but not in this.
Yeah. In your own thing.
Because this one I'm doing the lyrics and I'm doing the vocal lines and I'm writing the songs. And that is usually being a little bit of a rub, you know, as far as their vision goes.
Yeah.
And I don't listen. I wish all of them all the best, and all the best of luck, and all the success. I'm not saying anything else in that.
Okay.
It's just that I have a very clear vision of what I want to do, and so not so much what I want to do, it's what I almost feel like I have to do it. You know, it's like it's like a drive that this is something I need to do, and so that's what it's about. You know, the way I approach the instrument and approach anything to do with my music, I put a lot of passion into it, and if it's fast, if it's slow. It's all kind of like all in. It's not just one or the other. It's sort of like inside of itself. So difficult to explain. I think, to quote Nicola Paganini, one must feel strongly to make others feel strongly. And I'm very passionate about what I do, and I think that that's just something that you know it will, you know, come through somehow.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what they sense. I don't know.
No, absolutely. I mean, the answer a lot of these guys gave was that, you know, unlike a lot of these guys, you have soul, you have fire, and passion in your playing. You know, and it feels dangerous. It feels kind of like,
thank you.
in a good way.
Thank
but
you
yeah,
very
absolutely,
much.
man. You know, but I mean, it's the other thing with that is, you know, about being true to yourself. You know, how important do you feel it is to be honest and kind of true to stick to your guns as an artist?
I think that's probably the only thing that's important.
Yeah.
And, you know, by doing that, you also take a lot of risks.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, which is really quite remarkable, I've been thinking about this a lot since I've been doing all these interviews. I've been doing this for a long, long time, man. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, a long time. And I'm still doing this, and I'm still doing great interviews with guys like you. Like, well, I'm still doing this.
Thank you very much.
Which is amazing, you know. I mean, if you think about it, because most people, they come and go like this, you know. Yeah. That's the most common thing.
Yeah.
But with exceptions, of course, there's some great people that have stayed for a long time. But I kind of like get blown away by that sometimes because I never really compromised.
Yeah,
I always did what I felt was the right thing, and it's a good thing. If I'm going to put something out under my name, it has to be the way I feel things should be done. So I think it's Blue Sea. But then again, if you listen to some song like the title track, for instance, which I wrote, the solo is bluesy as hell, but it's also a lot of other stuff inside of it, you know, that might not be it.
How do you keep it fresh?
By improvising.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's this great question, because that is, I think, the key for me to do what I'm doing and I keep on doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
In fact, it's the fact that I improvise everything. It's always improvised. The solos in the studio are improvised. The solos on the stage are improvised. And that's dangerous, it's risky, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
And also the thing that's challenging for me is that the discipline of time in these things, because you got to stay within a certain frame of time. Sound checks are very short, and there's a lot of waiting around too. So yeah, it's a lot of challenges, but it's great. I love the guys, and we're having a great time. Like, the most important thing is the sound, of course.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because I did an earlier interview today, and the guys asked me, "Hey, do you ever do upstrokes?" I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I started playing some stuff, and I said, "Oh yeah, this is actually an upstroke here." Okay, you know. And I remember when I first went to Japan, 1983, and I've been playing for a long time already then. And they started me, "How do you hold your pick?" And I looked down like this.
Yeah.
You know, I never analyzed anything that I did. The only thing I worried about was what it sounded like.
Yeah.
And if I wanted a certain the vibrato or whatever, I mean, I just listened to it and went from that. You know, I never really kind of looked at what I did on the neck and shit like this.
On the top, yeah. You got some really heavy string. Well, comparatively heavy strings on the bottom.
11,
yeah. So like a 48 kind of.
46.
46.
Yeah.
So it's pretty heavy, and the action is stacked real high.
Yeah, I guess I never thought about that.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at it now, and I'm going, you know, I don't think I could play that. That looks pretty. That looks pretty high. Yeah. But you know what is it about that kind of setup that you like?
Well, what I realized very early on was that the gauge of the string is not determining the sound or the sustain, but the action does.
Yeah.
Okay. So if the action is low, you can have 11s and it's still going to be a dead sound because the string doesn't vibrate above the fretboard. Now, if we bend from F sharp to from C sharp to E, like F sharp is a pop. That's a lot. That's a lot of notes.
Yeah, it's 4 frets. It's huge.
You know,
Yeah.
more.
Oh wow. Yeah.
You know, that then why should you have a like a really heavy string when you can get the same sound on 8? However, these, if you hit the 38, for instance, a 38 of a normal bass string, it would sound like doing. I don't like that. I like it direct sound, like. That's why I use the 300 watt cabinets too.
Yeah.
Because it just punch, like, you know. So and that's the same thing with the pickups. They don't have distortion inside of these. These are very clean.
Yeah, they're quite low output pickups. I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, these are the Seymour Duncans, you know.
Yeah, so are they based on a particular Strat of yours?
No.
Particular favorite? No.
The previous brand that I used before, it was called Aegis 3, because that was the re-edition humbucking Strat 3.
Yeah.
Because I said back in the day when Van Halen was like, everybody was doing this, put double coils in.
Yeah.
I said, I don't like that. Why don't you take 2 coils and do it like this?
Yeah, perfect.
I said, okay. And they said, and they made the one pickup and gave it to me. And I said, I don't like this. Okay, they made another one called Aegis 2. I don't like that either. And then they made Aegis 3, third one. I said, well, this one's not very good. Well, it's the best we can do.
Right.
With Seymour Duncan, I did 59
Wow.
different versions.
That's insane.
They would give me another pickup. I said, a little more like this. Okay, no problem. 2 days later, FedEx, different wind. And we did it for a year straight.
Wow.
So these pickups are 3 different pickups. Actually, this one's different magnets than this one, different winds and so on. And it all depends on where the pickup is on the guitar as well. You know, where if you put this pickup here, it might not sound as good as vice versa.
Yeah.
And so I really refined that with those guys, and they're really. And I even told them that I wanted the cover to be a specific white, almost like a gray white.
Yeah.
So like it has to be exactly like this, and they would like make plastic samples and send them to me and say, no, like this. So these pickups are really.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Man, and of course anybody who wants those pickups, you can get those from Seymour Duncan.
Sure you can.
Fabulous.
Or you buy the model has them already.
Oh, so the model has the.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
That's great.
And by the way,
it was the first signature model. The first Fender signature model, the Ingwie Strat, the first one
they had the
released?
modules.
Yeah, oh no, but it was the first signature Strat, was the Ingwie Strat, is that right?
That was the first one.
Yeah.
You know, and you know what's happening this year?
Go on.
The 30th anniversary Ingwie Malmsteen signature model from Fender.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It's coming out. So the special model from Custom Shop.
Very cool.
He has the Hendrix neck, you know, the one without skunk stripe, the web cap.
Yeah.
And it's going to have that and different colors.
Very cool.
Yes.
Do you know what colors we're going to get?
We're going to get this, canned apple red,
Very nice.
sonic blue,
Beautiful.
like the one on Odyssey, and burgundy mist.
Oh, very
Hi,
nice.
I'm Laurie Basilio, and I'm a guitar player, musician from Brazil. I started actually playing organ. I was 4 years old when I started, and after my dad taught me some chords on an acoustic guitar, and then when everything started for me about guitars, and that was when I fell in love with the instrument. These days I do my own thing. I have like a couple records out. I do instrumental music mostly. Right now I'm recording my new album, and it's gonna be out very soon, so I'm pretty excited about it. I live in Los Angeles, California. So first of all, I love the city, LA. It's awesome. I love the weather, I love the people here, and living in LA, it's been an incredible experience for me. I've been learning a lot from different musicians, and it's been awesome. I just recorded my album with an incredible band. I got like Vinny Colaiuta on drums, Nathan East on bass, and Greg Fillingings on keyboards. So there's a few people that I've been working with, and I'm so honored. It's been great. My dad, he was like my first inspiration. He was always like playing guitar around like for fun every day, and he loves to write songs, and he's a great singer as well. So of course I have my guitar heroes. Andy Timmons is definitely one of them. Also love John Mayer, Rich Cosson, and I have like many others, but just a few. It's all a joy. Play the guitar. It's a joy. It should be fun. So if at some point it's not fun anymore, so yeah, you better watch yourself a little bit and try to get the way back to this good time, because it's all about it's all about it. I think so.
Dio, now Dio disciples. There's silliness going on around me. But I started playing guitar when I was 13 because of Ritchie Blackmore. I was originally supposed to be an artist. I can draw like a photograph. But trying to get a job as an artist gave me a migraine. And then I was all into R&B actually, until I heard the first Deep Purple lineup with David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes. And that was it for me. Then it was all rock. Then I had to learn how to play guitar like Ritchie Blackmore. And I spent hours and days struggling, trying to learn his solos note for note. And I'm still learning how to play Ritchie Blackmore solos to this day. It's almost like trying to quote Shakespeare, doing his solos note for note. My first concert I went to was actually Santana. And I'll never forget going, who's that other guy? It was Neil Schon. And boy, did he have I love Carlos Santana, but at the time for me, he was outshining Carlos. And I thought, man, that guy's gonna go places. And sure enough, he certainly did. And so I started learning Deep Purple songs and trying to figure out, you know, okay, well now what am I gonna do? Because then Eddie Van Halen hit the scene and Randy Rhoads, and all these guys had their own thing. And so I tried to figure out, you know, some things, what am I gonna do differently? And I was giving guitar lessons at the time. And so I would sit there and knock the, you know, because it's called tablature, where you write the notes out on a piece of paper, and I would tap the guitar and write it down. So they thought, I wonder if I could play with one hand. So I plugged my guitar and started playing with one hand, and it's percussive, so all the other strings started vibrating and making noise. So my first instinct was to mute the guitar with my other hand and play. So I became the guy who could play Randy Rhoads solos and Eddie Van Halen solos with one hand. And then we went off from there doing the Stanley Jordan thing that I came up with on my own, but then Stanley Jordan was the one who knew he was the guy. It was always somebody first. But eventually I learned how to try to be able to do my own thing. And then all of a sudden, just like you will always remember where you were at 9/11, anyone who ever heard Ronnie James Dio sing for the very first time will always remember where they were. I'll never forget it. Sitting in a car with a friend of mine, we were getting a band together, and I was all upset because Deep Purple had just, you know, broken up, and disco was taking the scene, so the world was upside down. And all of a sudden I heard Man on the Silver Mountain come on the radio, and I said, who the hell is that? And next thing I know, I came from an abusive family, so I was living on the streets in San Diego, and 5 years later, I'm headlining Madison Square Garden with my favorite singer, Ronnie James Dio, playing songs that we wrote together. And it was an actual dream come true, so dreams come true. He got a hold of a demo tape that I made with my last $20 giving lessons while I was still on the streets. And a friend of mine, I did a favor for a friend of mine, so he had another friend of his, had a house and a couch that only the dogs would sleep on, and they had no cushions on it, so it had all this dog hair, but that house had a phone. And when Randy Rhoads passed away and Jakey Lee left Rough Cut to take his place in Ozzy, there was an open spot for Rough Cut. And so they said, we got to get this kid up here because he heard a demo of mine. And little did I know that they were all, Ronnie and Wendy were already being good to me. They rented gear for me because they heard that I only had a guitar. So they rented gear for me to do the audition. Then I heard the night before that Ronnie wanted to meet me. So he was there on the audition. And I got a chance to talk to him and tell him, you know, about what his lyrics meant to me. And it was like almost like I broke his code. And even when he was in heaven and hell, he would call me on the phone to read me his lyrics. He says, "Goldie, I know you'd understand this," you know, because he would do this thing where he'd grab my arm whenever I was right. He'd go, "Yeah, that's right." So that night, little did I know that I broke his code. I was saying, you know, "I loved your lyrics, and it seemed like you were saying one thing but really meant another." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Well, you're doing this and you're saying that, but you're actually talking to both you're talking to the both opposites by saying one thing." He grabs my arms and goes, "Yeah, that's right." So then he got inspired on the audition and sat in. So we did Man on the Silver Mountain and Heaven and Hell together on the audition for Rough Cut. He comes over to me cheek to cheek and whisper to whisper. He goes, "What's the lyrics to the second verse?" You know, I'm the day. Oh, okay. I'm the lover, the lover of life. Oh, okay. And from that day forward, we became friends, and I'd go hang out at his house, and it'd just be the two of us sitting there watching old Rainbow videos. And when it got to be too late, he'd make a bed. He'd go out and get a mattress and put sheets and blankets and a pillow, and tuck me in like a father would tuck in a child, give me headphones so I could listen to Holy Diver before it was done. You know, it was really something. He was just one of a kind. And he's the perfect example of how one man can change the world. Ronnie changed the world because he created his own universe with his lyrics and the way he wrote. And he also, that kind of music called to the downtrodden and the black sheep of the globe. You know, because when you could hear what hurt Ronnie was subject matter that also hurt me. And when he was angry, you know, those are the things I was angry about. So it was almost like we were talking to each other before we even met. It's like I knew him before I even met him. And he had that relationship with the whole world. You know, he was so good to his fans. I mean, he would always pick the least and make them the most. You know, the one weirdo that got backstage who always got, you know, overlooked or was the last one to be picked on the volleyball team in high school. You know, Ronnie would pick him, you know, and make him feel the most special. You know, and he always had a way of making you feel like you were the only one in the room for that time that you were together. But it would be almost like having the golden ticket for the chocolate factory and meeting Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory. And so you had the keys to the kingdom and you're going to get to meet the king. And he would turn it all around and become your servant. And you go, "Hey, can I get you anything? Can I do anything for you? Can I make you a sandwich? Can I pour you a drink?" And he would just blow their minds with kindness. And anybody who didn't ever really meet him in person, they had a special relationship with him because of the way he wrote and the way he sang and the way he was to his fans. His family was the world, and the whole world was affected by that man. Yeah, there's going to be a memorial, a public memorial, you know, public, free, and it's for the 5th anniversary of his passing. And then there's going to be a couple events surrounding that because Wendy, according from what I heard, you know, that there's going to be, because there's so many people coming from different states and different countries, that she wanted some things for them to be able to be part of and not just the one thing. So there's the Rock and Bowl, and then there's the Ride for Ronnie. So there's 2 other events surrounding that as well. And so it should be, you know, because she also wanted to make it, you know, for something for people to have fun, and at the same time, you know, be able to, you know, pay their respects personally.
All right, everybody, I'm pretty sure you might recognize the guy sitting next to me as Richie Sambora. You know, he played in that little band called Bon Jovi that you might have heard of a couple times, that little thing. So glad that you're here.
My pleasure.
We're going to have some fun today. This is going to be great.
Absolutely, yeah. We just did a sound check, and it's actually the first time that the 3 of us have played together, except Lawrence Juber is actually my guitar teacher.
How old were you? You were very young when you started playing, right?
Not exactly.
13?
You know, I started teaching myself when I was about 13 years old. Before that, I played like accordion, and I found out you couldn't get any girls playing accordion, so I had to switch it.
You play an extraordinary number of instruments. I mean, you even played
a lot of
horns
stuff. Yeah, I played
piano
trumpets and
banjo
sax and bass and piano, and I played a lot of stuff. I taught myself how to basically play everything. I just have like an ear for music.
Have you got to play with any of the guys that inspired you, like Clapton? Have you got?
Oh, absolutely. Clapton was on my first solo album. He played on my first solo album. He's a friend of mine, you know, Jeff, and I know Jimmy's a dear friend of mine actually, and BB's a friend of mine. I did a PBS special with him about 2 years ago. That was just phenomenal. It was a big honor to play with him. But it's like, they think, you know, a guy from Bon Jovi, does he really have like blues chops?
Mm-hmm. And you showed him, didn't you?
Yeah, that's basically where I come from, you know.
We like those surprises.
And that, when I that's the thing, when I met with Lawrence, Lawrence is just a genius and you know, an unbelievable master at finger style and alternate tunings and stuff like that, which is stuff that I didn't know. So I just decided to delve into that. And Tommy Emmanuel, that's playing here, is just terrifying. he is so good at it. Really, Tommy is just terrifying, man. He's a musical whiz, man.
Yeah,
so it's like
amazing.
You know, I think the interesting thing about me showing up at a thing like this is because, you know, those guys, they play guitar for a completely different kind of concept of playing guitar. For me, I basically play guitar to actually accompany my writing, as a songwriting a lot. And these guys are songwriters in their own right, but they're just accompanying themselves. You know, it's really, really interesting. So it's a lot of fun. So I mean, it's
very successful.
One of the biggest tours in the world. I mean, for the first year of it, it was the biggest tour in the world, and then we only did another 6.5 months, and we came in second at it next year. So we did pretty well. We're a bunch of old guys who've been around for a while. You know, it worked out pretty good. But I think anytime you walk out in front of that kind of audience and you're able to actually play the songs that you like wrote in your bedroom with an acoustic guitar, and it gets to millions and millions of people, I mean, that's a special moment. I think that you know, your first #1 song as a songwriter is a very special moment. I think that was, you know, back in 1986. I was in Iowa. Swear to God, I was in Iowa.
Really?
And I walked out on stage and they said, "You just got your first #1 record," and that was something that you always remember. Mm-hmm.
Explain a little bit to us. I know that your father died of cancer, so you have firsthand.
Well, you know, when you hear the word cancer, you think, I mean, everybody, I mean, in every family all across the world has been touched by cancer in some way, shape, or form, and usually not in a good way, obviously. You know, so I mean, for me, it's an important thing. So anytime I get asked to do anything for cancer and anything to do with children, right before Christmas, I went and I did the Joe DiMaggio's Children's Hospital and raised a lot of money for the Boys and Girls Club down in Florida. I did a thing for Sloan Kettering in New York where we put 3 hospice units on the streets in New York a few years ago. I raised about $1 million. I did a show in New York at the Hammerstein Ballroom. So I'm pretty much involved in those kind of things. Anything to do with you know, people that are in need because of sickness. And also, this is kind of close to my heart because I feel like, you know, women are the heart of the family, of any family. I'm a family kind of guy, and so anything to help women and the cancer thing, obviously a connection is due to my family, so, you know, that's why I showed up with her.
You have a daughter. 14. Is she 14 now?
Yeah, she's gorgeous. And
she is gorgeous. And there's something going on with her. She's got some acting stuff coming up.
That's right, yeah, she's a movie star. Pretty soon they're going to be saying, hey, you're Ava Sambora's dad. You know, that's what's it's right around the corner, man.
How do you feel about that? Are you good
you know,
about that?
hey, look, it's a scary business, as we all know. But, you know, anytime a child has passion for something, which she truly does, and, you know, she's obviously good at it. And, I mean, she went on her first audition and got, like, a movie with Judd Apatow and Megan Fox and Albert Brooks. I mean,
no small stuff.
Right off the bat, you know.
Very nice.
She's a natural at it. She actually has the talent. And so I support her in her endeavors in this and passion. I just said, hey, look, you got to do it right. We got her a great agent and got her an acting coach. And she went in and I said to the coach, because I don't know, she's my daughter. So, of course, I think
you think she's great. Yeah.
I think she's fantastic. So I'm really, you know, I can't really tell if my perspective was off, but I said to the coach, I said, she got it. She ain't got it. Coach said she got it.
It's changed though. The music industry has changed so much. I mean, it's like, if somebody's trying to get into music now, it's such a different game back when you started.
It's hard. You know, it's really hard because it comes from a purely financial thing. I mean, when you get out there, record companies aren't giving those big advances anymore.
Right.
You know, so you can't get your business started because there is the business of music.
Right.
And, you know, one of the things that attracted me to John when we first started together, and we were both in our early 20s, is that we were businessmen. I mean, I had my own independent label before I met John.
Wow.
So, and I had 2 failed record deals before that also. So, you know, I mean, I've been through it and around the block and back a few times.
Well, you have such nice hair.
I mean, you and John have really nice hair. Do you fight over hair products when you're on tour with him? I'm just. There's no way you can make your hair look so.
You know what? I don't do that much, man. I put some of that mousse stuff, not mousse like mud or something. I don't know.
You just run it.
I just kind of run it and then I just blow dry it and there you go.
Gorgeous.
And well, how do you stay in shape when you're on the road? Because I know the schedule's hectic.
Yeah, no, man. I'll tell you what. At our age, you know, you get on the road. 18 months in 52 countries. We got a trainer that comes along with us. We got a chiropractor, acupuncture. You know, we treat it like a very athletic event.
Yeah, you would have to.
You have to, because you know you're traveling. You got time changes. You know, you're out there, and you know, you got to turn on 70,000 people every night. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's a great job, but it'll take a lot out of you. I work out on show days too, man.
I once heard you worked for a job with Kiss.
I did. Yeah, they wanted me to be in the band, and I actually auditioned. But at the time, I was, you know, I was in like 4 or 5 bands at the same time. I was really trying.
Who would you have been? With the tongue or with the star on your face?
No, I was going to replace Ace. I think they were looking for a new band at that time. But you know what? Honestly, I didn't know enough about them. I come from a different background of music. I come from a more of a modern-day blues-based, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin. That's the way I kind of grew up. Obviously, from a songwriting standpoint, Bob Dylan and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and, you know, those kind of guys. So I didn't really fit in. I really didn't fit in. But when I got back from that trip, I ran into this club, and I walked in, and I see John play in this club, and I said, wow, that kid's a star. I knew it immediately. And I never do this. I was like 23 at the time, you know, and I had my own independent label. Maybe I might have fancied him signing to my label, or something.
Right.
But I just said, hey, look, I'm Richie Sambora. You know, he heard of me and this, that, and I said, you know, maybe you'd call me someday and we'd get together and jam. And about 2 weeks later, he called me, and then that rest is history.
I mean, it really is. I feel like I was there from the beginning. Being in New Jersey.
Always. And here's the interesting thing. Do you have a cell phone?
No.
See, I'm always shocked when I hear from you. But how do you survive in this world without a cell phone?
Everybody I know has one.
Oh. You're in social media. You have an Instagram account, a Twitter account now?
I'm trying to get Princegram.
Instagram. You actually, I saw a selfie of you, or it was yours, I should say. Your favorite title in the Prince catalog. What's your favorite song? Turns you on every time you do it.
I usually answer by saying the next one, but there is a song that we've just written called The Breakdown.
If you weren't Prince, what would you do for a living, you know? I mean, because I know there was a point where you maybe thought about something else. What would you do?
Well,
I can't see you at the bank, you know? Even though all the ladies would be in his line, you know?
When I was 16, I was completely broke and needed to go get a job, so I got the Yellow Pages out, and I couldn't find one thing that I wanted to do. So I decided I was going to push as hard as I could to be a musician and win at it, you know?
Now, I've met, it seems like 100 musicians today here with you. What do you look for in musicians these days?
I was thinking about your question a second ago. I think I'd want to teach in some capacity if I didn't play. There's a lot of fine musicians in the group right now, and I'm learning from them. So as much as I'd like to teach, I also like to learn.
Yeah. Is there a huge vault of material that you've created that we've never even heard? And how do you make those choices? Because I'd like to hear everything that you pen. You know, just to hear it.
You would look different when it was finished. It takes a long time. There's a lot of music down there.
Yeah. Like how many songs?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't go back in time and listened to it like that. I worked on it and brought it as far as I could right then. A lot of it I didn't even finish. You know, a lot of the bootlegs that are out right now, they are unfinished, unmixed. You know, sometimes they change lyrics, and again, you wait until, you know, you can find other things to go with it. We live in a singles-driven market, but, you know, I come from the old school making albums, and that's what I'll always do.
You seem to have somewhat of a love-hate battle going on with technology. I know you haven't always loved the internet. How are you seeing progress right now with all of that? Can you use it to your advantage?
It's a double-edged sword. You know, a lot of artists aren't getting paid full scale for their art, and the internet, because of downloading and things like that, is kind of like a black hole. And it's hard to audit, it's hard to get accounting, and it's not that it's just about the money, but it's about justice and fairness. And when people say that they love you and they respect you, but at the same time take, you know, 80% of your earnings, then expect you to fix your own communities, and they'll probably edit all of this out, but then it gets, that's the sharp part of the sword, and we're at the wrong end of it right now. So eventually, with courageous people going out there and actually saying something and standing up for it, I think we'll get some balance.
We've watched you evolve over the years, not only as a musician, but as a man. And I wonder sometimes when you look back at old material, like I've looked at so much in the last 24 hours to prepare for this, do you look back at old stuff, risque stuff, and want to separate yourself from it?
Well, you know, when you're 20 years old, you're looking for the ledge. You know, you want to see how far you can push everything. And as an artist, I just went there just to find it. And then you make changes. You know, 30 years ago, there's a lot of things I don't do now that I did 30 years ago. And there's some things I still do.
Yeah.
Interesting memories about those days when you started.
When I started, yes, very clear.
Which is?
It was the first important move was, after I've been asked to work something out, was the finger and press start on the tape recorder, which was like a big tape full of shadow songs. And the first note and stop and see where it is on the fretboard. Okay, check it, ding ding, okay, next note, din din. Okay, check it, and so on, step by step, until I played a whole song, whatever it was. I mean, for some reason I don't remember which one it was, but it could have been anything like FBI or whatever, like From the Shadows. And that's how it started. And I was amazed that I could do that. I mean, I think I got it together in a few hours, and that the interest was very, very high, because I couldn't understand what I just did, you know, I couldn't believe it. So I carried on doing it, and there was more and more and more, and then I had the whole tape together, and that's how it started. Yeah, the first time it was when I was 16 and I was playing with the Scorpions. I was playing a Les Paul and a 100-watt Marshall, and my brother was playing the Flying V and 50-watt Marshall, and I broke a string on my guitar, and I was playing the lead, and my brother saw it, and he was ready to change, and when I did, it was the first time I played the Flying V and the 50-watt Marshall, and that was it. It was like instant love or something like that.
So your Flying V is still alive and kicking?
One of them, yeah. But it has been repaired many times, and this time it's the drumsticks repair came in after the sandwich made in Japan. The sandwich was the metal thing. I don't know if anybody remembers that. It used to be broken in Japan, this guitar broke in Japan, and Japanese people kind of made a sandwich out of it. Like they put like a metal plate there, and then screw it together. And then since Pete Kirkman worked for me, he fixed it with the drumsticks. So
Is that drumsticks?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah. So it's magic.
Any gig which is the best ever in your career?
I like the Budokan, not because this is for Japan. Is it for Japan only?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, not because of that, but that was, you know, that was like all together from beginning to the end. The Budokan one with Cozy Powell. Cozy Powell. That's a great one. Cozy Powell. That was very exciting, you know. It also was my first time over there. People being sick behind stage, you know, doing a live recording. It was all together from A to Z. It was just like an event. Also, when we played in Vietnam, that was an event too. But it was so different to all the things I've done before. I remember having an extremely good concert in Paris. And in general, I mean, I always liked Hammersmith very much. And like usually you know, like Los Angeles, I always liked to play in Los Angeles, Chicago, Texas. I mean, you know, it's very difficult, like the amount of years I've been playing to really, because so many concerts are very similar to others, and they are very good, you know. I mean, obviously the worst ones I've done are things like when the monitor system didn't work and I would smash my guitar into the thing and leave the stage, you know? Because I don't like that type of thing when monitors go wrong, you know? And so that's easier to mention. But like all the good times seem to be quite a few. I mean, so many that it's really difficult for me. Plus, also I must say, like when I play, I usually I'm not really that aware of audience for some reason. I'm sorry if that is like important to people, I don't know, but it is for me like this, because if I play solos, I just go inside me, and you know, and usually when I play, even when I play rhythm or whatever, and I'm more like an insider anyway, you know, if you have maybe noticed.
You're really into yourself when you play.
Basically, yeah. It sounds horrible, but...
Gallagher, welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Very special guest with us here today. This is LD Miola. Great to see you.
Nice to be here.
Glad to have you take time to sit down with us and have a little chat today.
Yeah. I'm in town and we're doing that little recording seminar.
Right.
So it was a good opportunity.
Right.
Well, I go to Miami. I have a home in Miami that I use for writing. I have a writing room. With a giant built-in board, so I can score it all out, which I just love to do. I love to open those doors and hear the ocean waves at night. It's just very conducive for writing, you know.
Right.
And then what I'll do is I'll probably start with some kind of acoustic, always on the acoustic, arpeggiated sequence through some chord changes. And if I have chord changes, I would syncopate them, and then if I like what I hear, I would just write it down and then record it, and then eventually just maybe write another part similar, and then add a melody next. You know, so the melody could be electric guitar or acoustic or whatever other instrument, you know.
Right.
So I usually write 3 parts, you know, 3 staves.
So you're writing on actual notation then first, before you record or before you make any demos or mock-ups?
Yeah, and then I go up to my studio in New Jersey, and once everything is pretty much planned, you know, and of course changes are made in the studio, so, you know, you have 90% of it on paper.
Right,
you know?
Right. A lot of the players who have a lot of technique, their songs are vehicles for their technique, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I don't hear that so much in your music. I hear the music driving the technique, or where it's required, and if it's not required, to not use it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, early on, you know, that argument could have been made that there was a lot of show of technique and everything, but really it wasn't fair, because we were playing some really, you know, complicated and intricate compositions. So in the midst of the composition, there would be places to solo, But what you're talking about is what I noticed too, is that, you know, the composition is very much secondary to the flurry of you know, flash playing.
Right.
You know, and you see a lot of hot players that are online, young guys that are doing some really great stuff. But there's zero composition.
Right. And are you trained as a composer? I know you studied guitar and worked through.
There is no training really. It's just influences of what you hear, and you know. So I come from a pretty good background of the things that I listened to as a, you know, a teenager growing up. You know, from the Beatles, you know, before I was a teenager, and all the way through the 60s was just a tremendous influence of a flood of great stuff coming from pop, rock, jazz, you know. And then as a teenager, you know, I took it to another level because I got more and more into jazz. And I got into more, yeah, Chick Corea was one of them, because he wasn't only a great player, he was a great composer.
Right.
And a lot of the jazz guys were more known for their playing, like a John Coltrane. You don't right away think of compositions. You think about how great he played.
Speaking of the playing ability, I was interested to read, you've talked about how guitar did not come easy to you, that you spent a lot of hours practicing and also trying to find the music that you wanted to pursue when you were in high school, for example.
Yeah, I went through different little periods there. I mean, you know, I had good training when I was very young. When I started taking guitar lessons, I had my instructor was you know, an old school jazz player. So I got the best schooling in that area, even though I was really liking what was popular. And I had great proximity to New York City to see a lot of great shows, which was part of the education, because I came back from a lot of those shows totally inspired. And living with my records upstairs, and that my bedroom was like, you know, my little domain where I just sucked in all of that great influence, you know.
Right, right. How do you think that's different today? Because players today have this whole world on YouTube and everything is there, and there's almost too much.
Yeah,
in some
too
ways.
much.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about that? Should someone focus? Should you try
to? It's a double-edged sword, you know. I mean, you get to discover a lot of things. You get to see everything. You know, when I get on the phone and I can't get off, you know, late at night because I'm searching and I'm checking this guy out and this guy out, and everything is accessible, and it can eat up a lot of your time. Now, here's what we don't talk about, which is the making of records. The record industry is down 99% from what it was in the heyday. Nobody buys records.
Right.
And it's a shame. And part of the reason is because we have these cell phones, these things, and computers. And before these existed, you know, back then when I was starting out in the 70s and even into some of the 80s, you know, it was, when we went into a studio, there were no phones. Everybody in the band was totally focused on making that record. If we went home from being out, you go home, you go to your stereo. There was no computer to go to. You go to the stereo.
Right.
Put a record on. Now, you don't go to the stereo. You go to your computer. You get in the car these days. You get your phone. You're returning calls. Oh, forgot to call somebody. Oh, yeah. Before the phone, you would go to your stereo. The focus on making records is less, and so it's a double-edged sword. We can't turn back.
Right.
This is the way it is. So what we have is we have the availability to hear and see almost everything and anything at any given time. Get information like that. You know, if I want to see somebody, just bam, there they are. I can watch their performance from last night. So I see this little ad in the paper, call the guy up, and the guy says, you know, you sound like a nice guy. I normally don't rent my house, but I got to warn you, your next door neighbor's a famous pop guy. So I said, well, who is that? I said, like Billy Joel or something?
Right.
He said, no, it's Paul McCartney. I said, you got to be kidding me. So I put in the GPS. There he was.
Wow, how about that?
He was standing in his driveway, right next to my driveway. And of course we got to meet and talk and everything, and it was a total dream come true. That was I wanted to meet two people, Paul and Bobby De Niro, you know.
Right.
More Paul than anything, because You know, I had all the posters up in my room when I was a kid.
Sure.
I felt like a kid.
Mhm.
Even in recording at Abbey Road, I felt like a 5-year-old going to Disney World for the first time. You know, that thrill that we don't have as adults. We don't have that.
Right.
I had that childlike thrill, you know.
Right.
So meeting him was just tremendous. Very friendly, no bodyguard, no gate in the front of his house, driving an old dark green Ford Bronco. And he had an old brown Rolls Royce as well. He's pulling in and out, so I got to meet him a few times. So I fast forward 1 year, and I rented the house again.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think he would have bought the house, you know, so he could have guest house. No.
Right.
So I rent the house again, same period of time, the end of August, he's always there. This time I had the finished record from Abbey Road.
Right.
And we saw him pulling in and out, and my girlfriend, my wife at the time was my girlfriend, and she said, you should write him a nice letter, stick it in the CD, and I'll take it next door. I said, really? You know, I was actually a little too shy to do that because people always give me CDs, and it's like,
right.
Oh no, another CD. She goes, yeah, I'll do it. So she did. We saw him pull in. She runs over there with the CD. It was just a mind-blowing story.
Right.
But what they have to have is a good sense of timing. Because if you have a guy that can't tap his foot, he can't play. Because if you can't tap a chord and play and feel syncopation above that, where you're playing off the time,
mm-hmm.
and the way that you know that is that the time down below goes off time when you play a syncopation.
Right.
That's bad. If you have that kind of thing, then you're not going to be able to play against somebody without that guy losing the time, and then things get shaky.
Al, thanks so much for sitting down with us. We appreciate you taking time today. I know the workshop, I talked to some of the people who attended it, and they were thrilled to get to spend the weekend with you and watch you recording some music.
A lot of fun.
And I think the gig tonight's going to be great as well. So
Yep.
Love to have you back sometime.
Oh, I'd love to be back.
Please stop back by.
Yeah, it was hard to stop. You know, we were in the middle of recording. We got to stop now.
Yeah, right. Awesome, man. It was great to see you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, buddy.
And thank you for joining me here at Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects. We'll be making lots of music. I'm Mitch Gallagher.
Welcome back to the Guitar Temple. Glad you're here. I'd like to remind you, if you could, like, subscribe, comment below, and say hello. Glad to hear from you. I respect discipline. And these world-class guitarists, these world-class piano players, these world-class musicians of all types have a lot of discipline. The discipline that you see in martial arts, the martial artists' discipline, the bodybuilders' discipline. Discipline simply means disciple of self. Oh yeah, raining on the beach, and here I am. And now that I'm under the tree, it stops. Get out from under the tree, it starts pouring. Okay.